Yes, this conversation went a little long, but that's what happens when you're having a good time. As a matter of fact, we actually ran out of time, so I've already scheduled Jean to come back next month for a follow up chat. If you are an educator, an administrator, a parent with a child in the school system, or just a community member who cares about education, you want to hear this conversation. Because Jean was a child actor who had the opportunity to work with many famous people, we spent some time talking about the entertainment industry and how his experience was a positive one. His parents were clear about the types of characters Gene should and should not take on. Not to mention, he had some positive role models, including Bill Cosby. Now, let me take a hot second to address the elephant. Despite the controversies surrounding Cosby in recent years, his contributions to children's education through shows like Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids and the Electric Company, and his advocacy for literacy should be acknowledged. Not to mention that for us Generation Xers, he was like America's dad for many of us for many years. Cosby's portrayal of Dr. Huxtable on The Cosby Show was a positive role model who promoted strong family values, a solid work ethic, and he had a fantastic sense of humor. So if you are tempted to get upset about us talking about Cosby at the beginning of the show in such a positive light, I really want you to just take a moment and hear us out, because I think it's essential that we separate his positive contributions from the serious allegations and legal issues that he has faced. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. That's just a small portion of our conversation. Really, when we get into the crux of the conversation, Gene explains how he went on to have a very successful career as an educator, and he most recently retired as a high school principal. He had a lot to say about the current state of education, as well as the challenges and the opportunities we have to positively influence students in and outside of the classroom. I think you're going to enjoy it, so let's go. Welcome to the Communication 24/7 podcast, where we communicate about how we communicate. I'm your host, Jennifer Furlong. Hey, everybody. How's it going? It's Jen Furlong, host of the Communication 24/7 podcast, where we communicate about how we communicate. So I have a very special guest today, and I am so excited that he has agreed to allow me to pick his brain
The
for
honor's
a little
mine.
while. He has such a fascinating background, and we're going to get into all of it. Gene, I just want to welcome you to the show first before we start talking about your background and the bio. I just want the listeners to know that this is going to be a very special conversation, and I want them to get their notebooks ready
Oh
because we
boy,
are
wait a
going
minute
to learn
now.
a lot. No
Might
pressure, though.
might need to burn those pages after the
That's right.
conversation.
We'll see. We'll see. But let me go ahead and give you the biography. And I'm going to have to read this because I do not want to mess this up. And there is so much interesting information and tidbits of just all kinds of cool stuff that we're going to be able to get to in this conversation, just based off of this man's history and what he has been able to experience. And then we'll get into some of the important school stuff that we want to talk about. Absolutely. But here's who we have on the show today. Gene Williams. He received his BA in English from Emory University in 91 and an MED in educational leadership from the University of Mary Washington in 2007. He's a writer, he's a speaker, he's an educator, and this part is really cool. He's a former child actor who has appeared on stage, screen, and television with celebrities like Bill Cosby, Ossie Davis, Ray Charles, Pearl Bailey, and Stephanie Mills. So y'all look, put a tab in that, okay? Because we're going to have to hear a little bit about that. All right, in 78, he became the first Black child in a major recurring role on the highly acclaimed CBS soap opera Search for Tomorrow. Another tab right there. Want to hear about that? Gene has authored several books, and within those books, he has written It's a Reading Thing, Help Your Child Understand, The Raisin and Milk Syndrome, Reflections of a Confused Middle Class Black Youth, and Grounded in the Word, an SAT verbal prep guide based on the vocabulary found in the King James Version of the Bible. I absolutely love that. So, y'all, I told you there are going to be so many interesting things. We're just going to have a fantastic journey during this conversation. His books and opinions have been featured in Jet, Black Excellence, The Washington Post, various national publications. He's been a guest and a contributor on NBC, CBS, CNN, and BET. He spent 27 years as a public school educator. He served as a teacher in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. He's been an assistant principal in both the middle and high school levels, and most recently spent 5 years as a high school principal. And y'all know I love talking about education and everything that goes along with it. So, again, Gene, welcome to the show. This is like such a treat.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I just whenever I get a chance to run my mouth to folks that have common interests, I like to take that opportunity.
That's right. We are. We're going to run our mouths. It's going to be a lot of fun, too. I'm super excited about this. So, that is quite the bio. You have had quite the journey out of all of those experience, being in entertainment and then making that transition to education. And then also you had some things on your heart and your mind, with the books that you've written. Take me through that. What made you make those decisions to go from entertainment into education and then have the ideas that you had for the books that you wanted to write? What were some of your inspirations behind those decisions?
Well, there were a lot of inspirations at a young age, starting at about 5 when I was doing television and theater and film and all of that. And like I said, people have their own opinions about this man, and I understand where those opinions come from. And I'm not condoning anything that he has been alleged to have done. I can honestly tell you one of my earliest influences in terms of education, in terms of being a positive Black male role model for my community, was when I met Dr. William H. Cosby Jr. at the studios when I was filming the first Jello pudding commercial with Bill Cosby, and to go back and to remember. Let's for a minute. Let's push off who he has become. Let's remember who he was.
Mhm.
You were a Black child in the 70s when there was a big boom on television for Black images. Of course, because every newscast you started seeing, you didn't just see, Ken and Barbara anymore. You saw a guy with a big afro and a big tie sitting across the desk from another person of another color and giving you the news and seeing Max Robinson, Jim Vance, people like that,
Yeah.
seeing folks that you haven't seen in those positions before. And so when I think of Bill Cosby, I think of, you looked at television, he wasn't playing a pimp or a hustler. He was a spy. I Spy. The cartoons on Saturday, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, teaching moral lessons from kids who lived in the ghetto. Okay.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
look at Captain Kangaroo, picture page. We look at the Electric Company, all those things he was a part of, along with
It
his
is flooding back.
career. And even early on, he was the one that was, as terms of celebrity, that was enlightening all of America about the history and the fantastic lineage of Black scientists, educators, and folks who make America what America has become. So he was my first influence, really, one of my first influences, of course, aside from my mother and father, who were both educators. See,
Mhm.
my dad at that time was teaching at Howard University. He later went on to become the dean of Sojourner Douglas College. Later on in life, he became the testing coordinator for DC Public Schools. And he went on to retirement. And shout out to Dad. If you've ever watched an athletic event, Super Bowl, NBA All-Star game, and heard Lift Every Voice and Sing sung or performed before the event, you have my father to thank for that. He started that movement back in
Mm.
2017
Okay.
when he had contacted his home team, the Washington Wizards, and they did it. And then the Brooklyn Nets caught on, and then the Golden State Warriors caught on, and now you see on the NBA and NFL and everywhere, even some NASCAR races, which was crazy when I saw it at a NASCAR race one
Yeah, that's
time.
pretty wild.
That blew my mind, for a variety of reasons that I'm sure are obvious to us. But so then I have my mom, and both my parents are dead now. But my mom, who was a career English teacher, my mom, at the height of her career, was the regional language arts coordinator for Miami-Dade Public Schools.
Mhm.
And in 2008, she ran for mayor of Miami-Dade County. Here's a crazy story, crazy aside. Her campaign only had $5,000 in its coffers. Her incumbent opponent had over 1 million. She did not win, but do you know she still got 40% of the vote?
That is insane.
And that is just based on relationships, the year she spent as an instructor and a teacher in Miami-Dade County, the time she would speak out. I would say, Mom, be careful, you want to keep your job, but she would speak out at school board meetings. So she became a fixture in that community, both politically and educationally. So
Right.
those were my major influences. Those were the guys that made me realize I really had no choice with Educator. Acting was something that was brought to me, was presented to me. I had success at, but at the end of the day, it's in my blood. So even in the roles I took, it was very important for my parents. They were very selective about the roles I took. I
Yeah.
probably I probably could have still been acting now. But my
Mhm.
father was, and my mother especially. Listen, we have to look at these images years from now. Your kids will have to too. So you're not going to be the crackhead. You're not going to be the drug dealer. You're not going to be the street kid. You're going to be the kid that's doing well in the classroom. You're going to be the kid that's intelligent. You're going to be that in every role you search for. And so that's what we try to do.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important to be able to recognize something that you said earlier when you were talking about Bill Cosby and not thinking about, yeah, we all know, like you said, we all know what happened.
Yes, we do.
But remembering the amount of positive influence that he had. And when you're talking about being a Black kid watching television and you were mentioning, things were changing and you're now able to see different faces,
Right.
the different representation and what
Right.
kind of an impact I'm sure that it had on you as a child is interesting being a white kid growing up and then watching Bill Cosby and all of those shows and just loving him also as a father figure. It's really interesting coming from a different perspective. It he was just such that wholesome dad that so many kids related to regardless of what his skin color was, and I
Right.
think that's a testament to his ability to just reach across and connect with people
Yeah.
on such an emotional,
Sure.
and personal level,
Sure.
focusing on the things that, like values and family and all of those things.
Because
Um,
at a certain point in our recent history, we had a group of people that were trying to convince America that Black folks and white folks didn't have the same family values. I'm not trying to be difficult today, but we know that happened. And so
yeah,
to have somebody that says, "Oh no, it may look different. It may be meted out in a different way,
right.
but we still believe in all the things that most families believe in.
Yeah,
And we still have all the same dreams that everybody else has. And we know as African Americans, when the level is the field playing field is leveled, we can not only succeed at the game, we can master it in many cases.
yeah, yeah, and at the end of the day, who doesn't want their family to, to prosper? Who
Right.
doesn't want their kids
That's
to
universal.
do well? That's absolutely universal, and I think that's a testament to the power that he had to be able to bring those important topics, across for so many people. Now, you had mentioned something about, the stereotypes, right?
Sure.
Get and
Sure.
all the stereotypes that existed in the '70s into the '80s. How do you feel about them kinda going off where I, initially wanted to go, but I'm
That's
just
fine.
so curious about because you do have this background, how do you feel about the entertainment industry today? There is a lot of, when I go out there on social media and I'm looking at the celebrities, the performers, and the images that are on stage, and I'm not that familiar with you as far as, I'm making an assumption that you're a man of faith
I
based on
am. I
the
am.
King James Version Bible and putting the
Thank you.
SAT, which is
Thank you.
fascinating. And I myself being a Christian, I can't help but to see certain images and things that happen on stage. I'm like, this is I don't think that used to be this way. Like things feel like they have shifted. And so with your background and being in tune with entertainment industry, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I gotta be very careful how I say this.
Yeah. Mhm.
So take it in the spirit that it's given.
Mhm.
Here's my problem with it. I don't live under a rock. I see the social media. I see comedians, especially right now. I don't know what's going on with comedians. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never once saw Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor dog each other out on national television. Never
Right.
once saw that.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
both came from the whole angle of celebrity from two different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But they always showed respect for each other when asked to talk about each other.
Mm. Mhm.
What I see now is something that really breaks my heart
Mhm.
because when you have that history of stereotypes and that history of being viewed as other than or less than or not as intelligent and or more of a criminal than or whatever than you want to use. And then for several decades, we begin to work towards moving from that. And we have an opportunity as Black people to, I'm not saying blindly support everything that each other does, but everybody doesn't need to know your inside business.
Mm. Mm.
They don't.
Mm.
There's no reason why a Cat Williams can't take a Kevin Hart aside and say, "Hey, man, this happened and I didn't like it. I need
Yeah.
you to know I didn't like it." Well, let's talk about that at your house. Let's talk about that in the barbershop. Let's talk about that in church. Let's keep it. But when we come out to the public, that's my guy. That's my guy. He's very talented in his way. I'm very talented in mine. And we move forward.
Mm.
What then happens is we have a bunch of comedians coming out now, and this is just my opinion, who want to claim the mantle of truth tellers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And in the course of that, you tear down everything that your colleagues have built and done or tried to. You can tell the truth, but there's a way to tell the truth. There's a tone in which you can tell it, and there's a place you can tell it. It doesn't have to be told to everyone. One of my colleagues back in the day, a fellow assistant principal of mine, used to say his father gave him some advice. And that advice was, "You don't have to come to every fight you're invited to.
That's such a great saying.
You
Yeah.
don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. You don't." And we know that there are some people that are making money off of prominent Black celebrities beefing with each other.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
making millions off of that. Heck, some of the people that are making millions off of that are other Black entertainers.
Yeah.
I have my own discussions about that. I would love to take Shannon Sharp aside and say that, "Hey, man, at what point are we going to begin to get back to what it was, what the show was about?"
Right. And there's
Oh,
the cynic in me. I can't help but to feel is that the core of it? Is that the crux of it? There's a lot of money to be made in division. There's a lot of money to be made in just put you on a team. You got to be on a team.
negativity sells,
It
but
sure does.
I guarantee you, you will never see a show where Jerry Seinfeld dogs out Bill Burr.
No, no,
You're
yeah,
not
I agree.
because
I agree.
that's not the business they're in. That's
Yeah,
not what they're about. They do what each person does, and hey, have at it. There's enough pieces of pie for everybody to enjoy this thing.
yeah. Full disclosure, I saw Cat Williams live just a few weeks ago
Brilliant
in
comedian, one of my
Columbia,
favorites.
South Carolina, and I mean, just I had not laughed that hard in such a long time. I mean, I'm brilliant, you know,
Brilliant comedian, one of my
brilliant
favorites.
comedian. But I
But
love Kevin Hart too. I will say, if I
another
have an
brilliant
opportunity,
comedian,
I'm gonna go
one of
see him
my
too.
favorite, and everybody has different tastes. Back when I was coming up, there was the Bill Cosby crowd
Yeah,
who liked the family stories and who liked the jokes and who liked the kind of what some people would call mild humor.
yeah.
And then there were the other side who loved the Richard Pryor fans of the world, who loved the straightforward, honest talk about living in oppressive times, living in situations that you wouldn't want to be a part of, and how to
Mhm.
make that funny. So that was always those two images have always been juxtaposed in American culture. But I never once saw the vitriol between
Mm.
comedians, well, especially African American comedians that I'm seeing now. And I just hope it doesn't spread to other parts of the entertainment industry. I don't ever want to see Denzel Washington disrespecting Viola Davis one day.
I
That would
can't
hurt
even
my heart.
imagine that happening.
Right. And you can't imagine it happening. And that's my point. We need to get back to the point with our comedians where we can't imagine that happening.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a good point right there, and I really hope that I don't know, like I said, the cynic in me is thinking maybe it's on purpose, maybe they're just drumming up business, but it's a terrible way to go about it.
They might be playing us all, but it's a very dangerous game to play and a game you probably can't come back from.
Yeah, 100%. So, let me ask you with the things that you have noticed in the entertainment industry with media, comedians, and, we can even thinking about music and
Sure.
just the entire industry itself. You've been in education for some time.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much of a negative impact over time has this had on our kids and their psyche and ability to respect one another, respect, education and what are some of the things that you have observed over time? Because I've I have not taught in K-12, but I taught at the college level for about 18 years. And I know I've seen in the classroom a shift in how students communicate with one another. And, we've had conversations about how the images that they see and just, how it impacts culture in general and our society in general. I'm just curious from your perspective, being in K-12 and all of this experience, what have you noticed as far as its impact on kids?
Well, overall, a couple of things. First of all, we all like to act as if this current generation is the worst that we've ever seen.
Kids today.
Right. Well, there's this big divide, and every generation there was that same divide.
Yeah.
I had I had parents who listened to Al Green and the Spinners, and I was listening to Prince and Michael Jackson, and they're like,
What
"What are you
is
guys
this?
talking about?" You know what I mean?
And
What's
then they
this?
look at Prince and they're
Right?
like,
What
"What is this?"
for the pants? Let's tighten up. So then there's that, and then I today, when I talk to my daughter who's grown, she's 25. I listen to some of the music that her generation likes and views as classic music. I said, yeah. I said, y'all can't hang with the 80s and early to mid 90s. You can't do it. Don't try to. I mean, you don't put up any of your blue-eyed soul R&B singers against Michael McDonald. Don't put it up. You can't do it.
That's
Don't
right.
don't put up any. Please don't tell me that Beyonce is a better entertainer than Michael Jackson. You can't do it. Stop it. Cut it out. But I think there's been some changes that seem in recent years just markedly different, things I
Mm,
haven't seen before. I think about rap music for one.
mhm.
I remember when I was excited as an educator about rap music because if I'm in class and I'm teaching about similes and metaphors and
Yeah.
with important devices, I can point to KRS-One. I can point to a LL Cool J. I can
Yeah.
point to a Tupac and be like, boom, and make that relevant to the kids I was teaching. And not only the black kids, the white kids too, because hip hop is a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
And then nowadays though, I listen to some of the music and I really don't hear, I can't understand. I hear a lot of mumbling
The
by
mumble
the
rap.
word. And when I hear some of the words that I do hear, I'm like, I can't say those in any class. I can't use that. And there's no longer poetic devices in rap anymore that you can cling to as a teacher because it's a bunch of people repeating the same thing and saying, huh, huh, afterwards. I don't know who created the lyric, huh, or hey, hey. I don't know who created those lyrics, but we got
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got to do
That
better.
that took a lot of mental acuity to be
It did. It did. It did. I know somewhere, and I think you when you hear rappers and entertainers of our era even talk
Mhm.
about it, they even say, I don't know what this is. Like,
Yeah.
I know what we did, I am
Uh,
I can't imagine Chuck D, a Public Enemy, looking at this today's stuff and saying, Is this what I wrote Fight the Power for? Is this what this is about? What are we
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So these is and I think it is affecting kids in a different way but it's not just the music, it's the whole it's an evolution
Mhm.
and everything changes. We have to get used to it, you know. The, don't get mad because we don't use card catalog and microfiche anymore in the libraries. We don't need it. You got Google. Don't get salty about it. It is what it is. Figure out a way.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. Figure out a way. Now we shouldn't have Google and Wikipedia writing our papers for us.
That's right.
And you said used to see all that all the time. I said, you got this whole paragraph from
Yeah.
Wikipedia, dude.
Oh, yeah, and it's obvious.
Before there was AI, there was cut and paste Wikipedia.
That's right.
That was the
Absolutely.
first AI.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was. Go out to, Google University and
What
figure out what.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
So those are the things that we have to get back to. It's very easy because we have machines and technology that can do a lot of the groundwork for us, and
Yeah.
God bless it.
Yeah.
But we still have to be able to teach our kids to be able to do the groundwork for themselves, because here's the thing that technology is dependent upon right now anyway:
Yeah.
electricity, power, solar, what have you. If it's a rainy day, if the power goes out, what are you going to do? So now you go to a McDonald's, and when the cash register is not working, and they said it's $10.15, and I give you $20.15, and so they give you back even change. Uh, what?
You're asking too much.
Whoa!
You're
I
asking
see. I see
too much.
kids have. I said I thought this kid was going to have an aneurysm one time. I asked,
Right. I can see the hiccup happening in the
what?
brain visibly.
And I said, it's not even worth it. Now, I'll tell you what the change is. Let me tell you what it is. And the kid believed, and I was telling him the truth. He's like, "Oh, thank you, mister." Come on, man. Come on. What are we doing? What are we doing?
If you are an organizational psychologist, an HR professional, or just someone who wants to strengthen your listening skills, you should pick up a copy of Head, Heart, and Hands Listening today. This book explores the 3 listening modalities of head, heart, and hands as active, but largely unconscious lenses that inform the potency of our listening. It also includes a comprehensive listening assessment so you can improve listening in targeted ways. Get a copy of Head, Heart, and Hands Listening by clicking on the link in the show notes. I think that is probably one of the biggest concerns that I have with, God, I'm about to say it, kids today. you know,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I would teach communication research. And one of the fantastic opportunities that you have in a class like that is you get to pull from all kinds of different written texts and music, like you were just talking about. When you look at how lyrics were written, in the 80s, with rap
Right.
versus what you see today.
Right.
Communication research was one of those classes that I would get very excited to teach because I would be able to challenge them. Okay, I want you to find a song from this decade, and we would talk about protest music, and be able to show them the lyrics. And then we would listen to the song and watch the videos. And it would, like you were saying with Public Enemy or Rage Against the Machine, in
Right.
the 90s
Right.
after the Rodney King incident, all of those things. And then to look for something recent, to challenge them, dig into it and find something of
You
some
won't
meaning.
find
What
it.
does it say?
You may be able to find J. Cole. You may be able to find Kendrick Lamar. Outside of that, it's going to be tight.
Yeah, we ended up looking at Childish Gambino's This Is
Okay.
America.
Okay. Another good one.
And I think that was probably one of the first times some of those kids been had looked at lyrics and then the symbolism of the actual video itself, and was in a position where they could talk about, what does this mean to me? What do you think it means? And then the different perspectives from that song, and it was just such an incredibly impactful moment, I think,
Yeah.
for some of them to be able to see
wait a minute, there is an opportunity here to actually be able to say something important. And, I need to start listening up for this stuff.
Can I share with you a teachable moment that I used to do when I was a principal, an assistant principal?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, everybody knew that at the end of the day, when kids were at practice or kids were after school tutoring, whatever, it was a Mr. Williams loves music,
Mhm.
right? So it would be nothing to walk down the hallways and hear Al Green,
Mhm.
Steely Dan,
Yeah.
the Doobie Brothers, the Spinners, the Temptations, whomever,
Yeah.
playing out of my office. And the best moments I had in terms of bonding and connecting with kids, when a kid would come by and say, "Oh, my dad loves that, man. Wow, okay." Or a kid would hear something that as a Gen Xer, we thought was fantastic back when we were coming up. And they would say, "Oh, who's that group? That's dope."
You're like, "I know."
Or even more, when they would play their songs and they tell me,
Mhm.
"Have you heard this one, Mr. Williams? You haven't heard this one yet." I said, "I listened to it."
Mhm.
I said, that's not an original backbeat, right? You know they
Yep.
stole that from James Brown, right?" I said, they stole that whole loop from James Brown." "What? No, listen to this." "Oh." I said, "Yeah, y'all aren't that original. Get
That's
up off
right, that's right.
You're not that original."
Yeah, I already know that
I
song.
know that song.
That's awesome. So, what type of conversations have you had with the kids in the schools about the information that they take in from online? Because so much, everything that they're getting is online now, from not just listening to music and, the shows that they're watching on Netflix and, all of the things, but even just the information they get that things that are happening in the world, you know.
If Here's my thing that I tell kids all the time. We're coming to an era where we used to have news, research, referenced points, all of
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
Now a lot of it is opinion. And I said, if there's no references, if there's no pointing back to where the people got this information from or how they learned this information in any form in the writing, take it for what it's worth. It might not be what you think it is.
Yeah.
I said, now one thing about Wikipedia that can be good and constructive is, at the bottom of every Wikipedia page or most Wikipedia pages, they have articles they read that fed this article,
Right.
bigger article. Now, whenever you see a Wikipedia page that doesn't have that, it usually won't be on Wikipedia very long. It'll be taken off. And so that's my thing. Just look for the reference material. Find out if this person's total idea, total intellectual property, or if it has been gleaned in part from someone else. As evidence of that, you can probably trust that more so than just somebody just spouting off. Because we got a lot of that
Oh, yeah.
with the TikTok, and
Plenty.
everybody's got an opinion on everything. That's one of the things that, as a former professional actor, that really I think people don't pay attention to. Everybody's a star now, so nobody's a star.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, everybody thinks they're a star.
Right. And if you can, and you may be talking total nonsense, but if you can get enough people to watch and support and click and like the nonsense you're spewing, all of a sudden you become the authority,
Yeah,
the expert. That's the world we're living in.
and that's what the algorithm is gonna
Right,
support. It's gonna
right.
keep shoving that to the top of the feed.
Can I use an example of this
Yes,
for
please.
adults?
Mhm.
And some of the people that are listening to us right now, are watching us, that are teachers, are going to hate me for this. Yo, can we just stop telling everybody how terrible education is?
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Listen, first of all, and once again, I'm about to get in trouble, but I feel like this is a safe space. This is my message for some of the younger teachers. Us old heads, the problems you're dealing with are like 20 and 30 years old.
Right, yeah, yeah.
We were having these same discussions, many of them in faculty lounges and over cafeteria tables years before you were even a gleam in your mama's eye.
Mhm, mhm.
So here's the thing. We could sit here and lament the fact that kids can't read. Damn it, teach them to read.
Right, right. Yeah.
Okay? I mean, find out where they are and help them get to where they need to be. Because here's what This is Googleable, so I'm not just spouting off on this one. See, I gotta follow my own advice. Newsflash, folks. 46% of all Americans, regardless of age, race, creed, or color or orientation, 46% of all Americans read on the sixth grade level or lower. Our kids can't read because America refuses to.
Right. Yeah, yeah. That is horrendous. I remember when I first got into journalism and we were talking about when you write these articles, the goal was to write it at an 8th grade level because that's where the majority of Americans were at the time.
That's gone down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Isn't that something?
It's listen, look at the you saw the evolution happening. First, you had the Washington Post back in the day, the New
Mhm.
York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the old Chicago Tribune, the old Boston papers. You had to have a kind of good head on your shoulders and the ability to really read and comprehend to get through some of these facts.
Right.
And some people might say it's because they were trying to gatekeep information, but maybe they were trying to smarten you up
Right.
and force you to meet that standard. Okay.
Yeah.
Then came USA Today, big pictures, color, taking up more of the pages, bigger font. Okay, so am I reading a newspaper or I can read book right now? What are we doing right
Mm.
now?
Mhm.
And then you go to 24-hour news,
CNN.
CNN,
CNN happened. Yeah.
MSNBC,
Yeah.
Fox, and those are all different sides of the
Yeah.
same terrible
The
coin.
journalists became the celebrities.
I don't care what your political affiliation is. It really doesn't matter to me.
Mhm.
But if you're getting all your news from one of those, you're not getting the whole picture.
No, you're not.
Just not.
Absolutely
And
not. I think that's one of the biggest dangers that I think a lot of the kids, when they depend on social media and that, like I said earlier, that algorithm is gonna continue to push that same drivel up to the top of your feed, and if that's all you're feeding your brain, of course.
I could tell you some of the you saw my Instagram.
Mhm.
Some of the posts that have been the most vitriolic and kind of accusatory
Mhm.
are the posts that have gone viral.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The posts that talk about working together as a community, as parents, as teachers, as students, the posts that talk about what if the kids can't read, let's help them to read. Stop crying about it. Let's do something about it.
Right.
The posts that talk about, you know, listen, we could make all this hullabaloo about the new math that you want,
Mhm.
and people not being able to do. They don't have. This is a new thing now where kids don't have to be allowed to do. Apparently, kids don't have to be able to do basic math in order to jump to the advanced classes. Stop that, y'all.
How does that work?
If you can't multiply, subtract, divide, and add on a basic level with numbers of 3 digits or higher,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a problem for you when you get into algebra. It just
Mhm.
is. Like,
Yeah.
stop. If you don't know that 3 times 8 is 24, then you don't know that 24 equals X times 3. You don't know that. You don't know what
Right.
X is. X
Right.
is just a letter to you at that point.
That makes no sense.
It
That makes
makes no sense, but you see it happening. You see people talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but like I said, when I go after certain folks in education, oh, 50,000,
Mhm.
20,000 likes, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I talk about things about building relationships with students,
Mhm.
when I talk about the reason why some of your kids act up is because they can't read and they're embarrassed, and it's easier to cut the monkey and mess your
Mm.
class up than it is to actually get into it and work with their deficits. And
Right.
maybe sat down with them, help them to understand this is a safe space. I understand. I'm here to
Mm.
help you read. It's not to hurt you or embarrass you. Maybe you see the behaviors change.
Mm. Mm.
No one wants to talk about that. That's not sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Positivity is not attractive anymore, and
Right.
that's the worst thing that's happening, I think, the worst effect of social media.
To the detriment of everyone.
Yes,
I mean, truly. So what would you say to a young person who's in college right now and they see what's happening in the school systems and we already have a teacher deficit. I mean, just about in every state probably by now.
sure,
There's a teacher deficit and it just
sure.
does not seem like that's the career path that a lot of people are choosing to follow. What would you say to a young person who's thinking that they they might want to get into education, but because they're seeing everything that's going on, they might be a little afraid to get into it.
Well, first thing I do is I'd be honest with them.
Mhm.
Is this something that you really want to do?
Mm.
Do you feel this is a calling or a passion, or is this just a something to do while you're waiting for your dream job to come along?
Okay. Mhm.
If that's if that's what you're thinking, teaching might not be for you.
Right.
If you are very thick-skinned,
Mm.
if the rhetoric and the disrespect of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year old, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 year olds is going to just totally crush your psyche as a grown human being that pays bills and has a family and is contributing to society, tough
Mhm.
enough. It might not be for you.
Right.
If the whole idea is if you are more concerned with blind compliance than
Mhm.
student connection, you're going to have a tough time teaching no matter what demographic, no matter what school, and no matter how much your admin does or does not support you.
Mm.
And can we please, I have been a classroom teacher and I have been a principal. Can we please stop? You don't see principals on social media dogging teachers out.
No.
You don't see it. First of all, we ain't got time.
You're doing the job.
We try to keep things rolling on a certain. And like I say, there is. Listen. I understand.
Mhm.
I grew as an administrator. The type of administrator I was at the end of my career, at the beginning, different as it should. You mature, you grow, you see things, you begin to realize what supports teachers need and how some things that people tell you are important are not as important as what the teacher needs.
Mhm.
Okay. As you grow, you get better at that. And hopefully, as you get better in that, you have a longer and longer career. I'm proud to say I was in building level administration for 17 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Are you seeing more and more teachers getting out there on social media and kinda airing the dirty laundry, so
You're
to
not?
speak?
You're
'Cause
not
it
seeing it?
I'm seeing it, but at like, how much worse has it gotten, over time?
Okay, now granted, now people when I say this, they say, "Well, Gene, you're not in school buildings anymore on a daily basis." I said,
Mm.
"Yeah, I just left in June 2023. It wasn't 15 years ago.
Yeah, just
So stop that.
right, that's right.
June 2023."
Not
Um,
even a year ago.
right. It may have become more severe and more frequent, and we may be more exposed to it because of social media. Yes,
Mm,
if every time you turn on the X or Twitter feed, there's a channel that says student fights,
right.
and all these kids are sitting there recording fights, and that's all you see running into your loop 24
Mm,
hours a day. Yeah, you begin to think that.
mhm.
Now it may have become more frequent, and I'm sure COVID didn't help, and we can have a whole discussion about what COVID did or didn't do to the psyche of teachers and students and parents.
Yeah.
But like I said, these aren't new. I made a post which basically says this: before COVID was a thing, I was swung on by a student. You
Mm.
thing. Yeah, try to hit me. Now, luckily for him, it didn't work because he'd have been sorry about that one. Because I was young and in shape then, and that
You
wouldn't
were
have gone over
younger.
him. That would have come over him. But before COVID was a thing, I once had a little middle school tell me he's going to kick me in my testicles, and
Mm.
testicles wasn't the word he used.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay? Before
yeah.
COVID, listen, the year before we got into COVID heavily, I had a parent come to my office, and an African American parent,
Mm.
and I was disciplining her son. She told me, "Well, you don't understand what black boys go through." I said, "Ma'am, when black boys were truly going through something and it was actually advocated by the government and state, I was little then.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
talking to a person that was born the year after Dr. King got shot. Like, who are you talking to?"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then that same parent disrespected my assistant principal. I don't even use the word she used for her,
Mhm.
and told me to, I won't tell you what she told me to do to a specific part of her anatomy. And it wasn't it wasn't the posterior. It was
Yeah,
another area in there, nether regions.
yeah.
And the language.
Mhm.
This was before we ever decided to social distance or go home for 6 months or whatever any system did for
Mhm.
COVID.
Yeah.
This has been happening for a long time. I have these same discussions with my teachers And my colleagues when I was in the classroom back in 1997, 2001, 2010, yo, let's stop. Let's
Yeah,
stop. And we get our strength from trying to figure out a way to work with each other. Is every administrator a good one? No.
right.
Is every teacher a good one?
Mhm. Yeah.
No. Is every doctor the best one? Is every fireman the best one? Some people do just enough to keep the check flowing.
That's right. That's right.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Mhm.
Let's figure out a way to work together as parents, as teachers, as administrators for the betterment of the kid.
Mhm.
One of the things that some of my teachers used to get mad at me about is this about what's best for the kid or about what's easy for us?
What's easy. Right.
Let's
Yeah.
ask that question. And if we're more now, I'm not saying that we should be not concerned what's good for teachers, but if we're more concerned about what's easy for the teacher than what's best for the child, which is why we were there. Listen, we have a teacher shortage now. If and, and if we suspended every bad kid in America for every time they did something and totally criminalized it, there'd be no kids in the school. Who would you teach then? How'd you get your money then?
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I got to be careful because there's a whole bunch of teachers watching right now. Probably want to bash me over the head with a cast iron skillet. But
Well,
I,
you
I,
know,
I,
there's
I look at all sides of a thing.
yeah,
Some of
yeah.
us administrators have got to get ourselves together, no doubt.
Well,
And I,
and
and I,
I do
and I
think
was hoping
there's
everybody.
a level of, well, so and so, like you said, are all teachers good? No. Are all administrators good? No. I mean, there are going to be some that are better than others. But at the end of the day, if that's what you're consistently looking at, if that's what you're using to make your decisions on how involved you're going to be, I mean, there's always going to be a reason
Right.
to not, do better. Well, so and so. And I see that on a systemic level, right now, talking about with media literacy and trying to implement more media literacy education in the schools, like at the legislative level, there I'm surprised at how much pushback there is because there's this fear of, well, who's teaching the media literacy? You've got some teachers that are going to politicize it, and you've got other teachers that are going to politicize it. And at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. You may have some teachers who will do that.
And
But
let's
is that a reason to keep the kids away from learning how to assess the information and critically think about the information that they have coming at them?
And what if you had a person that had an angle or an agenda in teaching that?
Yeah.
Here's as school leaders, here's what we hope to do to build a type of climate where we have independent thinking students who
Mhm.
will say,
Guess what? Yeah, I got
"I-
a question for you.
in a respectful way, I,
Yes,
I hear what you're saying, but
but
this will lead me to believe something else. What's your thoughts on that?"
that's right.
I'm reminded of a time when my daughter was in an AP history class and the teacher was talking about the 50s. And he said, "These were the happy days. Everybody was having a good time."
Everybody.
Daughter, who was one of two black people in a class of 28, said, "Sir, was everybody happy? You sure about that?"
Yeah. Mm, yeah. Mhm.
You know, and then that teacher came to me because she was a student in the school where I was assistant principal. And he said, "I had to catch myself, Mr. Williams. I never I talked too quickly and I didn't realize." I said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's easy." I said, "And you're my teacher."
That's right. That's right. But I'm sure the way she went about that.
Right, right. It wasn't confrontational. It was just very much, "Sir, I hear what you're saying, but when I
Yeah.
think of dot, dot, and dot, that might tell me that some people might not view it as happy as how it's being presented
Right.
right now in this class."
That's right. I think there's too much of when we talk about different topics and especially getting into the classroom, if we approach it from the mindset that, oh, it's going to be a gotcha moment or it's going to be a, hey, I'm going to one up you
Right.
on this.
Right.
That's not in the spirit of learning.
It's
And
it's all about balance.
yes.
I think of one of the major things that teachers are talking about now is lesson plans. And there's a big movement. Teachers say, "Why writing lesson plans? It's stupid. We shouldn't have to do it." The principals don't check them anyway. And to them, I say, yeah, you're probably right. But here's the thing: if you fail to plan,
Mhm.
planning to fail.
That's right.
Now,
Mhm.
whether or not you turn them in every week or every day or what have you, I should be able to look somewhere and see if there's some type of structure. It could be on a piece of paper, whatever. This I'm going to do this in general and that for this many minutes in the class. Boom.
Yeah.
At least when I watch your lesson, I should be able to see the components of a lesson. I shouldn't have to look at the paper. I should have said that. Oh, this is the guided practice. I got you.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
now they're helping on their own. This is the independent practice. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
They're marking out with exit answers and next. Okay, this is the conclusion. So let's got it.
That's right.
Didn't have to look at a piece of paper. I can just tell by the transitions and how the class runs smoothly. This teacher has a plan for their kids.
What if it were possible to bridge the gap between you and your teen so that you could communicate with honesty, compassion, and understanding? What if you could transform your relationship with your teen so that you can guide them to be confident, capable adults who want to open up to you? If you like the sound of that, you need to get the book titled You Are Not a Bad Parent. It's by board-certified pediatrician Dr. Elizabeth Henry. She will guide you down a streamlined path to creating lasting connection and true understanding between you and your teen. Get your copy today by clicking on the link in the show notes.
So
Yeah.
it's all about balance.
Mhm.
No, I think a lot of teachers do get a bum rap, and teachers do have to do more now than they've ever had to do. Teachers have to be social workers and they have to be first responders.
Mhm.
If a child gets shot, who's the ones that protect your kids?
Gotta know what to do.
It's the teacher. Before the SROs and the law enforcement gets there in the school
Mhm.
shooting, it's the teachers and the principals on the front line. They're the first responders.
Right, right.
Okay,
And then even before it gets to that point, you have, some kids that are screaming for help.
right?
That one kid that was in the news, I think both his parents just got jail time or they got sent to prison for neglect,
Sure.
willful neglect because the kid is writing all over his notebooks and texting with his mom and, like I'm seeing blood and, there's voices in my head. And it's like you gotta be able to.
And teachers have to be vigilant about that too, because
Yeah.
if you happen to walk by and see little Johnny doodling, and all he's doodling is guns and pictures of people getting their head blown off,
Yeah.
hey, little Johnny, me and I gonna do it out to the counselor and figure this out.
Right.
You can't be drawing that in class. We're not, this is 2023. It's not 1963. Everything needs to be looked at. So teachers are forced to be hyper vigilant, and that's a lot on teachers. I totally understand that,
Mhm.
but I think sometimes teachers want understanding they're not willing to give reciprocally to their administrators.
Okay.
So, okay, yes, Johnny called you a B in the middle of class. So
Mhm.
Johnny's not coming back to your class. I want to suspend him for at least several days.
Mm.
So he's going to come back to my class in 5 or 10 days? He might. Well, no, I want him out forever. I said, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
First of all, have you read the code of conduct? Do you know that? Are you reading educational laws? We just make demands. Don't think that just because a principal doesn't do what you think he should do or what you want him or her to do, that they don't support you. They
Yeah.
also, just like you have protocols to follow,
Mhm.
admins have protocols to follow.
Right. Right. And I think ultimately the question is what are we gonna be able to do to help him understand why that was the wrong choice to make, why
And
it's not okay
and
to
we just
act
and
that way.
we try that. And if we get to the point where we realize that that's not working, then at that point, then
Yeah.
maybe there does need to be an alternate placement for him, or maybe
Yeah.
going to school in a regular situation is not what's going to work for that kid. Okay, well then, but we've gone through the processes.
Yeah.
And so now when mom or dad come back with why is you and I want to no, there's no lawsuit, there's no this,
Mhm.
there's no that. We followed A, B, and C. We did due process. We gave the child opportunities. It didn't work. And I'm not gonna allow my teachers to be disrespected or feel physically threatened if I can help it. I'm not
That's
gonna allow that.
yeah. Yeah. So schools are starting to wrap up. It's getting toward the end of the school year. We're March and, you got seniors that are just senioritis. They're not even paying attention in the classroom right now because they're getting ready to graduate and leave school. What are some things that you would advise teachers do, parents do, as they're wrapping up their school year? What are some of those lessons learned that they could probably think about over the summer as they're working on those lesson plans and thinking about, they're going to get a new crop of students in, a new crop of parents now? Is there a way to start it off a little more effectively than others?
Well, what we used to do is have a transition meeting every year.
Mhm.
We would have a meeting for the middle schoolers coming up to high school and becoming ninth graders. And we have a meeting the next day for ninth going into 10th, 10th going into 11th, 11th going into 12th. Hey, these are the things, this is the code of conduct. These are the negotiables and the non-negotiables. These are our goals, academic goals for you for the year. This is what we expect. Mom and dad, this is how you can help us. We would talk about the whole idea of cyberbullying and all of that. My main point was to all my students, I said, when it comes to the whole cyber thing and you posting things about each other, if it ain't positive, what are we doing it for? Like, what's the point of this? Because
Yes.
all that's going to happen is somebody's going to get upset, and
Mhm.
you all are not emotionally equipped right now in your immature state. That's all. I'll tell you this: in your immature state, you haven't gone through enough, and maybe you have gone through some very tough experiences, but you haven't grown enough, in terms of your emotional intelligence to be able to
Right.
handle everything the way it should be handled. So
Mm.
let the grown folks do that. And the best way to keep that from being a problem is if you can't say anything nice about somebody, say nothing.
Right.
But that's hard in a society where we reward people who dog other people out.
Mhm.
And as adults, we can't sit there as adults, adult parents doing dumb stuff like attacking umpires at little league baseball games
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or
Makes no
or
sense.
uh, or you know or punching up the principal in the face because he suspended your kid for 5 days or something you said that you don't believe should happen. And nothing's happened to me, but I've heard
Mm.
these stories,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And you see
or
it in the news.
you see the news,
Mhm.
or harassing a teacher day in and day out with phone calls and problems just because the teacher has standards in his or her class. Like,
Mhm.
stop. And
Yeah.
then you want your child to act in a certain way. They're feeding off of the clues that you are providing for them.
Mhm.
And so we
That's
have to really think about what we're doing. That's why it's so important. The teacher is not the enemy.
mm,
Principal is not the enemy. Our entire job is to work together to get your kids to graduate. I used to tell my seniors this story and they would always laugh. I tell them privately, though I wouldn't tell them in public.
mm.
I'd get them in the school meeting, the senior class meeting, after we finished everything and talking about what I expect for graduation, the protocols, and you're going to wear this color robe, and we're not going to have sneakers on. We're going to have dress shoes, and we're going to have dress pants, and you can have little messages on your cap. That's fine, but it better not be anything silly because what you're going to do is you're going to take a picture of it beforehand. You're going to email it to me, and I'm going to. And I used to do this. Approve individually everything you want on your cap. I said, and if you get to the school that day and I see something on your hat that wasn't on your hat when you sent it to me, you either get a new hat or you're not walking.
Or you're not walking.
What are
Yep.
we doing? And I got plenty of spare ones in the office, so we can take that one off and slap that one on.
That's right. But somebody's
Um,
gonna try it. Somebody's gonna
you know what? My last school, to their credit, they really tried.
Mm,
All kids have issues, and they weren't perfect. They weren't perfect students, and I wasn't a perfect administrator. But I got to give, especially the last 5 years I spent as a principal, credit. My kids really did try. And the
yeah.
one thing I loved about them the most was I used to tease them. I said, "Y'all really know how to put on the dog when visitors come, because
Yeah.
you don't act the way you act when it's just us in the building."
So there's an awareness.
But but every time a visitor came, they had nothing but positive things to say about our students and our
Mhm.
teachers and how they related. And this student came to the door and saw I was lost and asked me where I was going and walked me to the class. "What are you doing? What are you teachers doing out here, Mr. Williams? This is really a great place." And I said, "Who did that?" And I think about mine about what was in this discipline file. I said, "Oh, well, that's what we try to that's what we try to impart, And in my mind, I'm like, "Wow, what?"
Yeah.
You know, but
Something stuck.
something stuck. Something stuck. When
Mhm.
I was a principal, I used to say morning announcements at the end of every morning announcement. I would steal a line from legendary comedian George Wallace, and I would say, "Mr. Williams loves you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it."
That's
And all the kids used to tease me, say, "Mr. Williams, you're so corny. You're so corny." I said, "Yeah, I'm corny." And said, Why do you do that?" I said, "Because believe it or not, there's some kids in this building, heck, and some teachers in this building they
Mhm.
go through an entire week, an entire month, and sometimes many months without hearing the words "I love you" coming out of somebody's mouth towards them.
Mm.
I want them to feel what that feels like.
Yeah.
Whether they believe I love them or not, they can say they heard someone say that to them.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about it was the kids would always tease me about it. But then when I would forget to do it, whoa, whoa, Miss hold on, you're not gonna stop announcement. You
They
know,
want it. They want it.
you love this yet, but we can't announcements are still going. Don't do that. And so,
Yeah.
it's just very important. It's just very important to look honestly at what our situation is. It's not as good as it once was, and we need to improve it. We all know that. Let's roll up our sleeves and try to improve it instead of spending the time and energy we spend blasting it. We could actually be doing something about it.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanna take a moment to underscore, you said something incredibly powerful, and I do not want to let it slide because 'cause we're starting to run short on time, and I just think it's so incredibly important, whether you're thinking about the students, you're thinking about teachers, you're thinking about parents, the administrators. Some people go all week without hearing something positive or the "I love you, I care about you, I'm in your corner, I wanna see you succeed." I'm here to make sure that that happens.
Right.
Every single one of us as basic human beings, I think it's so easy for us to forget because we get so focused on the politics of things, looking at it in terms of, are we on individual teams, looking at the things that seem insurmountable, a lot of these challenges that we have, and it just really sets us up for this us versus them
Right.
mentality. And at the end of the day, I just love that you shared that story that, sometimes teachers go a week without hearing it, students go a week without hearing it, every single one of us at the end of the day. I think that is probably the most powerful thing to remember in any situation that we're looking at, especially in the schools. I'm so glad that you did that with your kids. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was just that became my thing, and I
Yeah.
loved it when I heard it.
Yeah.
Because I want the kids to know I'm going to discipline you. We're going to
Yep.
have tough times. We're not always going to like each other. It's never personal,
That's right.
but this is what has to be done in order to create a society where we have people that would want to live in it. And so, you last little peep about when I was a principal. The last year I was a principal, people were worried about senior prank. And they didn't want anything crazy going on because senior pranks can be dangerous. People don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So here's a principal hack. Get with your student government president and create a prank on yourself.
Oh.
And everybody be so excited about it. We get to dog the principal out for 5 or 6 minutes. They won't worry about trying to do something to the whole school. So my
Mhm.
last year as a principal, I said, listen, here's what you're going to do. I said, tell the kids that you all are going to throw water balloons at Mr. Williams the last day of school. She said, "Oh my God, but they would love to do that. Are you gonna go for that?"
You're like, "I know they would."
I know they would. I said, "Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna gather them all the seniors out in the front yard.
Mhm.
You're gonna tell them, listen, we're tired of this. We're getting up out of here. And Miss Williams is gonna, usually hounds us about trying to leave early or what have you. We're not taking this anymore. It's been a week. We're out of here in a week, and we're letting him know how we feel about some of the things he does."
Mm.
And so I said, "Can you do that?" I said, I want you and the kids sort of big ruckus in the front of the building. And I told my superintendent, I said, "You're gonna see something that you're not gonna like. Just bear with it. I know what I'm doing." And when I'm gonna come out there and I'm gonna blast y'all out. I want to just one of you kids who's not here. How many times I have to tell you? If I tell you one more time, people won't be walking. Everybody will be going home. And where I'm getting the most heated moment of my tirade, blasting with water balloons. And they,
Please
and they
tell me there's a video of this somewhere.
uh I don't know. There's a video, there was a picture,
Oh, that'd be great.
but the kids loved it. And then after they threw, I said, "Oh, you guys got me." And he's like, "Yeah, we got you, Miss Williams. You thought you had a control. We got you today." And they loved that.
Oh, yeah.
They loved that because, and I didn't get mad. I didn't get upset. I said, "Well, hey, it's the last day. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do." And we laughed, we joked, and we hugged each other and the whole thing. And it was just, some people didn't understand it. Some of the teachers didn't like it. I didn't care because when I thought that, sometimes if you don't want something to happen in the building, I'm trying to avoid something with attention's taken off of you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
put it on me.
Yeah.
So, live
But
with
but
it.
you created a core memory for them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you
we got
created
to
a
do this.
core
Do our
memory.
best.
Yeah,
Well,
that's right.
that's true.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
being able to laugh and just enjoy yourselves, I mean, that's one of the best things to be able to create a sense of community, just laugh and have a good time together.
what happened to the teachers that could laugh at themselves?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
can't do
Don't
that,
take yourself too seriously.
what? We're only here for a very short time.
Mhm.
This
That's right.
Come on, we don't listen, everything is not, DEFCON 9. It's not.
Life is hard enough.
Right. Just living.
It is, it really is. Well, Jean, we have gone for over an hour now, and I mean, we got to some things we hadn't even had a chance to talk about.
Oh,
So
man.
you're gonna have to come back on the show.
I want to. I
Yeah,
would love to.
I just absolutely love this conversation because I still want to talk about the whole SAT verbal prep guide. We didn't even get close to
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no, no. It's totally my fault because there's just so much to this conversation. I've
Here it is, folks. Grounded in
really
the
enjoyed.
word. Grounded in the word.
There you go. There you go. So that's what I think I want to talk with you about that next time. I want to
Okay.
do a deep dive
Okay.
into that particular topic right
A
there.
deep dive into the data.
Yeah, deep
That
dive.
that's principal speak.
That's
I
right.
do that. Well, deep
Oh,
dive
you
into
get
the
excited
right
now.
data.
We'll just nerd out. Well, sir, thanks again once more for just spending your time with us and being able to share some of your expertise and your experience. And this has been a real treat for me. I have really enjoyed this, and I know the listeners have enjoyed it as well. So we're definitely going to have you back.
Good, great.
Yeah. Now, before we end everything, though, tell our listeners what are some ways that they can get in touch with you if they want to.
www.eugenewilliamsjr.com. Email me at support@eugenewilliamsjr.com. You can see me on Instagram at EUGWILLJR. You can catch me on TikTok at Eugene Williams Jr. So I'm in a variety of places, and you can Google me. I'm Googleable,
Googleable.
and you'll see about some of the things I did when I was a young person, and hear about my mom and my dad and folks like that. But thank you, Jen, for this wonderful opportunity, and I really would like to come back again and as many other times as you'd love to have me, because I think you're doing a really great service for your listeners.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Yeah, we will get right on that. We're just going to go ahead and pick another day.
Okay. Okay.
Get that on the schedule.
Sounds
All
good.
right, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and y'all take care. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review.